Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live. Talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynncullenshow@gmail.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's May 4th. It's a Thursday, which means it's the last show of the week, which means all kinds of crap is going to start happening the minute I say goodbye. Because that's what happens. Which, of course, then makes Monday's show easy. So all's right with the world. Who's complaining? Not me. Before we get into the heavier stuff, I want to start with something personal. I was terrified of bees as a child. I was stung a number of times, always in a strange way. First time I stepped on a bee at a swimming pool. Didn't see it. Another time a wasp bite, reaching in to a large bag of dog kibble on the pig farm I was living on. And damn, I came out with this huge wasp attached to one of my fingers. It hurt. Oh my God, did that hurt? And then, you know, I knew that bees were really important, and I really worked on myself to not be afraid of them. I also knew that they were not aggressive, that the accidents that had happened to me, I mean, in both cases, I'm the one who, you know, went into the hornet's nest. So I really tried really hard to get over my bee fear to the point where, I mean, I can, if a bee is buzzing around right around me, I can sit still. And not what I used to do. I used to scream, yell, start batting. I can sit still knowing it will go on its way. And then I read this story today, the Washington Post, and all that work was set back. I'm going to share it with you. For some reason, the Washington Post felt a need to do a story on what to do if you're attacked by bees. Now, they made a point right at the beginning of this article of saying that bees don't normally attack. So then why do the damn story? They are not aggressive. The thing is, they are defensive, though, and they defend their territory. So if you wander into it, they might come at you. And for some reason, they did this story. First of all, here's what they tell you to do. Run! I'm not kidding. They say run. Literally, make a beeline. I can't believe they didn't use that pun in the story. What they do is say, run to find shelter as fast as you can in a straight line. That's a beeline, right? So you're supposed to run like hell in a straight line. Then they tell you this. Bees can reach speeds of up to 20 miles per hour. What? Jeez. Well, I got to tell you, I can't. So right there, I'm dead. I'm stung 100 times. And I also found out by reading this that most people can withstand as many bee stings. I guess one sting per 10 pounds of weight. No, it's more than that. It's whatever it was. I was glad I was overweight. Okay, 10 stings. Most bodies can handle 10 bee stings per pound of body weight. Well, geez. I mean, not that I like to think of being stung over 1,000 times, but, so there's that. Anyway, here's the other scary thing. Oh, it gives you all this information that is absurd. You're supposed to protect your eyes, cover your eyes. Your nose, your mouth. Well, how the hell are you supposed to cover your eyes if you're making a beeline running 21 miles per hour? Yo. And then they note that. They do say, but, watch what you're doing. Be careful when covering your eyes while escaping. The last thing you want to do is run blindly and fall. That's a recipe for disaster. I read this like almost first thing this morning, and I have been in a state of terror ever since. Guess what else it says? Don't scream. Oh my God. If you scream, you're only worsening things. This is where, like E. Jean Carroll, don't scream. It'll only make things worse. Because when you scream, you're letting out carbon dioxide. And that agitates bees. And they're already agitated. Don't flail your arms. That agitates them too. Don't wear black. And then to the question of, okay, but will the bees, after I've run, I'm practically in Wilmerding by now. Surely those bees aren't still, I am no danger to their damn hive. Clearly, if they're just on defense, then they could turn around and go home. So are they going to keep coming at me? It turns out, yes, they are. Will the bees stop chasing me? Is the question they pose. And the answer is no. They'll chase you to the ends of the earth. You are told, still running in your beeline, not flailing, not screaming, but with your hands over your eyes. You are supposed to find shelter. You are supposed to make sure there are no openings because they'll come in through them. Do not jump into water. Guess what? They'll just hover right over you. That is correct. They will hover right over you. They will not go home. They will not turn around. They will wait for you if they're pissed off enough, and they are. They will wait for you to come out. And if you think you can swim underwater, fine. They'll track you with bubbles because of the bubbles of carbon dioxide you're releasing. And then they said this, and this is it. This did it for me. Panic and adrenaline can also impair your decision-making and your breathing. So if you've jumped into the water, you're quite likely to come up more often for breaths than you normally might, which will, of course, lead you to get stung even more. And here's the expert they're talking to. Here's what they say. The scene can be gruesome. In the cases where people have died, emergency responders have found bodies filled with bees because they've inhaled bees that have stung them from the inside. So if you scream, the bees will come in. They'll get you from the inside. Oh my God, it goes on. I cannot begin to tell you. I stopped there. That was it. That was it. Thank you, Washington Post. It's like they wrote a horror movie. And this, excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm having terrible. This is pure reflux, I can tell you. Why would you do a story like that? I suppose if it saves just one life. But it traumatized mine. All right. Not a normal subject here, but there it is. I had to share. And oh, Clarence. Oh, my God. I don't mean our friend Clarence. I mean Clarence Thomas. Oh, my. You know, drip, drip, drip. What are we going to find out next? Turns out, guess what else the Texas billionaire, Harlan Crow, was doing for Clarence, that supreme asshole. I'm sorry, I rarely say that, but it came to me. It turns out a nephew that Clarence Thomas thinks of as a son, he has legal custody of, has been going to only the best private schools all his life. Paid for by Harlan Crow. Harlan Crow has paid $6,200 a month for tuition at Hidden Lake Academy. Well, that was back in the day. That was July 9th. So, 2009. So the kid had this fancy-dancy schooling, and then he went off to Randolph-Macon Academy, and those tuitions were paid as well. If Crow paid for all 4 years just at those two schools, the costs would have exceeded $150,000. Thomas has refused to comment on this latest unveiling of his propensity for grift. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh, God. Okay, now, figure. Oh, God, one little quick thing. Turns out before he got canned, Tucker Carlson sat down and taped a video that was intended for a specific audience. The audience was in the fascist state of Hungary, and it was to a convention taking place there, CPAC of Hungary. You'll recall that CPAC of the United States invited the fascist leader of Hungary, Viktor Orban, to come to their conclave, right? These are brothers and sisters of a like kind. So before he left, Tucker Carlson sits down and does this, wish I could be there with you. I love you, my guys. I know we're all being... I wish I could play it for you. It's pretty short. But he's telling him, here we are. We know that we're targeted for thinking the way we do. And then he actually says, and he recorded this literally a day or two before he got fired. He says, if I ever get fired, I'll come right to you. I will have then the time to be there with you. Yeah, that's what he said. Little did he know. I wonder if he is. Has he headed off to Hungary yet? Unbelievable. So it was a pre-recorded message to CPAC in Hungary. And yeah, he says in it, if I ever get fired and have some time and can leave, I will be there with you. Which shows him to be a liar, because as far as I know, he's not, right? He says if he got fired He'd be there, but he's not. Just saying. I have something very grisly I need to share with you, and I'm saying this as a trigger warning, and then I want to get into my main topic. But as a trigger warning, because I could hardly read it. It's from Charles Blow's column in the New York Times today, and it is in response to Tucker Carlson as well, and his saying that ambushing somebody or 3-on-1 is not the way white men fight. It's dishonorable. And I spoke to this yesterday, and I was saying, yeah, right, that's not the way white men fight. And I immediately mentioned the KKK. Well, Charles Blow, that's what occurred to him too when he read it. And he writes this, and I hope you just hang on, because what I always think when I think I can't, is you're just reading about it, woman. Someone actually endured this. And you now must have a responsibility to witness, right? So I'm telling you that. So screw up your courage. And also remember that this comes at a time when we've learned in the news today that American kids are getting more and more stupid about our history. And this, of course, when the Republicans are bound and determined to ensure that trajectory continues apace, since they, in Republican states, are now being told they can't be taught history if it makes them feel bad. Well, like they would never be taught what I am just about to share with you. This is from Charles Blow. In 1893, Henry Smith, a black man accused of killing a white girl, was lynched in Paris, Texas, before a crowd estimated at 10,000 people. As the New York Times reported at the time in a story headlined, "Another Negro Burned." Here's from the New York Times. Officers saw the futility of checking the passions of the mob, so the law was laid aside, and the citizens took into their own hands the law and burned the prisoner at the stake. Smith was paraded through the streets on a carnival float, then tied to a scaffolding. His body was burned with red-hot irons, inch by inch, until they were thrust against his face. His eyes were burned out, and the hot iron shoved down his throat. The scaffolding was doused with kerosene and set ablaze. Afterward, clamoring for souvenirs, the crowd took ashes and pieces of bone. Those are white people. And those are 10,000 white people, men, women, children, church-going folk, good people, regular people, probably ministers in the crowd, probably teachers. A mob. And Blow writes this, trying to comprehend how white people fight. And this lust, this mob lust for souvenirs of the dead, of the killed. And he tells us a piece of history that we don't know. He says, I grew up in Gippsland, Louisiana, just north of the spot where Bonnie and Clyde were gunned down. For most people, I would imagine that's where their understanding of the story ends, but not for us locals. We know that after Bonnie and Clyde were killed, the car was towed with their bloody bodies still in it, and was stopped in front of a white school. The children ran outside and gawked at the corpses. When the car was towed to the neighboring town of Arcadia, a mob descended. People again sought relics, taking Bonnie's shoes and pieces of the car. Blow writes, I grew up around people, or at least the children and grandchildren of people, who had been quickly converted from gentle shoppers in downtown stores into a school of piranha, hacking at the flesh of the dead. Scarier than bees. Okay, a note. I had said this week I was going to talk about the ballot for the upcoming primary. I probably am not today. I'm going to do it next week because I just still have a few little things I want to check up on. And also, I want to point out that it is being reported that at least one poll, there are polls done of these local races, that one poll shows a change in the county executive race. It shows Sarah Inamorata in first, and trailed by Weinstein and Lamb. So it appears that people who would vote for Weinstein or Lamb are maybe splitting that vote, allowing Sarah to rise to first place. Just saying. I know a lot of people, including me, are nervous about we don't want to vote for Weinstein, but we're scared. Some people, if they vote for Sarah, instead of that, Lamb is the person who could possibly get in. This poll, if it holds and is true, suggests that voting for Sarah is the thing to do to keep Weinstein out and to get a damn fine public servant. And in this day and age, a young woman in charge. Da-da-da-da. Gerontocracy. Be damned. Okay, just saying. But that will wait till next week. So I had read this thing. You know, I struggle with the trans stuff a lot because I'm honest about the fact that it is very difficult for people, I totally understand, who have been raised to see the world in a very concrete way. There are girls and there are boys. I mean, look at the bathroom. That's why bathrooms always come up, right? There are girls and there are boys. And then in our recent history, we have come to terms, us heterosexual boys and girls, with the fact that some boys and girls are not attracted to the opposite sex, which was part of what the worldview, the view of, the order of the universe that we're taught. What? And that became something that it ripped families apart. It ripped churches apart. And that is in recent, relatively, memory. So I want to credit us for being open enough to say, maybe things are a little more complicated than we were told. I didn't know homosexuality existed. I did not know it. I don't recall when I did. I remember hearing little things. Well, he's a little light in the loafers, I remember my father saying once. And I understood that to mean that, a man was not into women so much. And I don't know what I thought. Okay. But for most Americans, without a doubt, and for a ton of people in the world now, we've gotten beyond that. We now understand that it's not as simple as they're men and they're women, and see, they're attracted to each other. And that's how we propagate and the species continues. All that. But we now know that there are, people who, I'm sorry, they're attracted to the people of the same sex. And I don't know that many people now are appalled by that, but I guess there's still a lot of people who can't handle that. But then we move into, and so that was when LBG, it's the T, and then the Q and all the other stuff, because most people don't even understand what the hell any of those things mean, I have to tell you. But the T was something really difficult to understand. Because it was asking us to believe that a person could be born into a body that was the wrong one. That a person in every way in their head was a girl, in every way could be born with a penis. And you can imagine how difficult that would be. Now, people can say that's not, but it's true. We know that. I mean, it's a medical, what is it, dysphoria, this body dysphoria. And sorry, your head's telling you one thing and your body's telling you the other. So we get into then people choosing to do what their heads tell them as opposed to their body, and transition themselves into the sex that they feel they were meant to be. Now, a lot of people simply cannot take this in. Cannot take it in. And I sympathize with that, but I also suspect, much like the gay thing, that what this is real, and that we need to maybe just loosen again what perhaps we took as gospel about the ordering of the world. Now, I think, I don't know. I have struggled. I don't struggle with the fact that this exists. I know people who are trans. I have known people through transition. I have seen them flourish, become happy after transitioning. And I know this goes back, this didn't just start happening. There were always trans people. They didn't have available to them the medical resources that people do now. Okay. But again, because this has now become the major, I think, wedge issue that the Republicans are going to use to peel away independent voters, to peel away those folks who really can't stand Donald Trump and think the Republicans have lost their minds, but think the Democrats have lost their minds in this LGBTQ PST WXYZ thing. Now, I don't want anybody to get, I am simply speaking what's in my mind and my heart. And then I read this thing and I thought, well, I'm not the only one. And I think this guy, William Falk, he's the editor-in-chief of The Week, the magazine. And he wrote this: does gender have a biological basis? Or are male, and female merely socially conditioned performances? Or is gender purely a subjective experience of identity that has nothing to do with chromosomes, genitalia, and internal plumbing? He says gender has become such a radioactive issue that even asking such questions can be taboo and trigger threats, even physical harm. Many Americans, he says, have become reluctant and even terrified to publicly voice opinions on this issue, which activists on one side, trans activists, and right-wing culture warriors have turned into a battle of dogmatic extreme. And so he lays out what the two extremes are saying, and then he suggests that probably reasonable people operating in good faith might find some humane middle ground, but reasonable voices are in short supply and are drowned out by the loudest, the angriest, and the most adamant. I agree with that. So what are we, I think the majority of people, to think to do? I then came across something that I want to share with you, and this was in a piece written by Jennifer Finney Boylan. Odd, because her name came up in another article. I was reading somebody talking about, I don't know who she is, but she must be a hell of a writer, since she was being referred to by another, a wholly different subject. She's an opinion writer for the Post. And she wrote a piece that I did not see, but it said in part that to understand this issue, to understand biological sex, she believes, don't look at the body, look at the brain. One study shows, she said, that transgender people's brains are in fact different. Quote, what the research has found is that the brains of trans people are unique, neither female nor male, exactly, but something distinct. And she said, and maybe that means that we need to think about gender in a different light. Well, her article garnered just tons of reaction, as you can imagine. And I just want to share with you a few of the things that people said, because I think these are representative of so many people on this issue that so many people are fearful of speaking out about. Either their queasiness about it, which I understand. My God, you're raised to believe something. This is how the world works. It's as if all of a sudden somebody tells you, the sun actually comes up in the west and sets in the east. It is somewhat like that. Like, what? And to expect people to turn on a proverbial dime in their comprehension of sexuality is, that's nuts. Ain't going to happen. We still got millions upon millions struggling with, boys can like boys. Girls can like girls. And this is another step beyond that. The question is, one writer says, is how should society accommodate people who are in these gender gray zones? And there's more of them than we knew. Not quite male, not quite female, or feeling like they're sort of, wrong body. What do we, this is what the big question is now. How does a society then accommodate people who are telling us that things are more complicated than we knew? The writer says one side, the liberal side, mostly says live and let live. Let people be themselves so long as they're not harming others. The other side says, no, you can't do that because of women's sports or bathrooms. Well, okay, the writer says, we do need to set some rules so that people feel protected from unfair competition, or I suppose sharing a bathroom with someone with the male, it's always the male issue parts. But can't we manage this without going to war over it? Don't we have larger problems that might require our attention? And then another writer, a person named Chris Weinke, reminded me of something my brother had once told me about how Native American cultures often were very, very cool about this kind of gender dysphoria stuff because it existed for them. There are people too. And they did not react in a freaked out way. I remember my brother saying that if somebody, like if a guy in a warrior culture, even a Native American warrior culture, if a boy was clearly not into being a warrior and liked hanging with the women, that was okay. But I remember whatever tribe my brother was talking about, he said that they were, though, then considered to be contrarians. If they were not like the other men riding off to war and instead preferred being more female, then the tribe insisted that they sort of do everything the opposite of what, I guess, even riding a horse backwards. I don't know if I'm remembering this right, but I think I am. And he pointed out to me that movie in which Dustin Hoffman, was long ago. What was that movie where Dustin Hoffman plays? Is he, I think, maybe kidnapped, maybe as a child, a white child, by an Indian tribe, and then raised as an Indian, but he was a contrarian. And in the tribe, he is shown to be a contrarian, but very much loved. And this writer picks up on that. Says, I'm so sorry about my voice, but that's just it today. Human societies have long recognized gender categories that are neither man nor woman, but something in between the gender binary, or even outside of it. Many Native American societies had a place for gender variant people, a group who are now referred to as two-spirit people. They can be either natal males or natal females who dressed like, perform the duties of, behave like members of the other gender. Two-spirit people have been observed in as many as 150 societies around the world. Two-spirit people rapidly declined by the end of the 19th century as a result of pressure from the dominant European culture in North America, which opposed the idea of more than two genders. Other cultures have similar gender identities as the two-spirit person. In Oman, now that's in the Middle East, there is a class of males called the Qanis or Zanis. They are exempt from strict Islamic rules that restrict men's interaction with unmarried women because they are not considered men or women. Another example is I don't know if I'm pronouncing the Hijra of India. They are males who see themselves as women or as neither men nor women. Some have intersex conditions. Some undergo ritual castration. They dress as women, although they do not really pass as women, but they're accepted as they are. In Thailand and Cambodia, there's a group called the Kathoi, who are very similar to Oman Zanis. Also, the Mahu of Tahiti and the something or others of Samoa are people who identify as having a third gender. In these societies, it is believed that it is neither obvious nor in these societies, it is believed that it is neither obvious nor natural for only two genders. Okay, sorry. Let me take a drink. That's the part that I reach out to. I think those seemingly more primitive societies are more progressive than ours. Because first of all, they are open to those who are different, who don't fit into the boxes that societies and cultures create. Two, to have order. Some cultures require more order than others. I know that I have always pushed against being placed in a box that supposedly defines me because of whatever, my religion, my sex, my this, my that, whatever. And I think the humane thing is to allow, live and let live. Let people be. Now, if there are slight issues that come up, like the sport issue, should a trans woman be allowed to, for instance, that swimmer, the collegiate swimmer, compete on the women's team? When that swimmer, before she transitioned, he, at the time, was not that, didn't win a lot. But since transitioning, she wins a lot because she has some of the built-in benefits of the male body in which she was born. I don't think that is fair. I don't think that's fair. Not fair to all the women. Now, I suspect that the rule that would make sense to me is a trans athlete cannot compete in the sport that they have transitioned into, in the gender of the sport they've transitioned to. You know what I mean? If their transition occurred after puberty. But, you know, a trans woman who went through male puberty is going to have physical advantage. And you could actually argue, God damn it. I'm so sorry. You could also argue that a trans woman has other advantages over biological women, in that if they grew up male, in a male body, they were given, the culture treated them differently, empowered them perhaps more, so that psychologically they might have benefits that we can't even understand. But they also would have deficits by being a kid who felt uncomfortable in the body they were in. So, but see, for me to just say what I just said, I get that. And and that's sort of the middle ground I would take on the sports thing. On the bathroom thing, they got these family bathrooms. I was at a little, rest stop on the turnpike not too long ago. They had men, they had women, they had family. There's something that can be maybe useful, because I do think it's a little, well, the way women's bathrooms are, it's not like if a trans woman who still had male genitalia went into the women's bathroom, that anyone else in there would see the genitalia. You go into a stall, you shut the door, you do your business. So I'm a little unclear about the bathroom stuff being such a hysterical thing. Whatever. These are my thoughts. Here's a wonderful response. The only objection I have of trans women using the designated ladies' room is that the line outside will get even longer. I like that. Here's another. Biological sex is about chromosomes. And as the author pointed out, there are many sexes. We are not genetically just male or female. There are lots of other biological states. However, gender is not at all about chromosomes. Ooh. Biological sex is now here's another thing where I think people's heads explode. Biological sex is about chromosomes. We are not genetically just male or female. There are lots of other biological states. However, gender is not at all about chromosomes. It is a much more complex issue that involves genetics, epigenetics, sociology, and more. What we need to do right now is educate people on what sex is is as because a lot of people are obviously lost in a binary desert. We need a more useful vocabulary to discuss, let alone legislate on these matters. Okay, so here's something from a. I'm just reading these because I appreciate hearing what people say who don't seem to be on, part of the, raging extreme. The people for whom this is, an issue that just makes their heads explode. A woman writes, "My child is trans. I'm extremely disturbed by the number of adults who are obsessed with what is in my child's pants. It's creepy that adults are focused on my child's genitals to the near exclusion of everything else." So, anyway, that's some of it. Wait a minute. It was not very long ago, in historical terms, that people born left-handed were viewed with suspicion and derision and were even perceived to be possessed by demons. In Latin, the word sinister only means left, a definition nearly lost in the modern lexicon's mighty perception as evil. This may seem a trivial comparison, but it illustrates how the societal mind works in the presence of difference. This was a big deal once, left-handedness. And now, so I just wanted to share all that with you because I've been engaged, as you know, in a struggle to get myself comfortable. People are just too, what my sister called me a misogynist the other day. That's nuts. We're just so, or like, if anyone thinks that what I just did was transphobic, give me a break. I can't take it anymore. I'm not transphobic and I'm not misogynistic. Sick of it all. So what do you think about the drones hitting the friggin' Kremlin? False flag? I don't know. I don't have a clue. And has anybody noticed I haven't mentioned the debt ceiling? Yeah, I understand that's the biggie, but I haven't mentioned it. You know why? There's nothing I can do about it. Because whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Because this is the kind of performative politics that we play now. It's watching a bunch of so-called grown-ups play a game of chicken. It's so unbearable to watch that I just tune out. What will happen will happen. I want to point out, too, that we're like the only country. I think there's one other, Denmark or something, although they don't get into this crap, that does this, that has a debt ceiling and that has to be dealt with constantly. That's just not the way most countries have done their bookkeeping. So this is another situation that is, American and doesn't look like it's a good idea to me. If you have this limit that you pay no attention to, if you have a limit that you're always going over, and then what everyone's supposed to do is increase put the bar a little bit higher or lower, depending on your perspective. And, I don't know. Jeez. Unbelievable. Hang on here. Just trying to get... Oh, stop it. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Here. I wish I had more control of this gizmo, this goddamn thing. My computer. I think I need a new one. I think this is like really old and is part of the reason that, let me look at, you guys have sent me stuff. So let's finish off with you. Little Tony writes, Lynn, I've been meaning to tell you how cool I thought it was you had lunch with our Crumb. A long time ago, I watched a documentary about him and his family. Yeah, I got to watch that. It was before I had the internet. I must have rented it at the video store. Remember going to the video store? Yeah. The movie was called Crumb. It was an odd documentary, but enjoyable. And what else would you expect from a guy like Robert Crumb? It'd be odd. I was glad to hear he was still trucking. Have a nice weekend. Thank you. Yeah, it was wonderful. He was a really nice guy. He's odd. I suppose I should. I don't know. I do have a picture of Crumb and me. Maybe we should put that up, but I'm sort of not into it because I look like hell. He is so thin and he's sort of a small. I mean, I don't know that he's maybe the same height as me, but he's just, there's no fat on him. And I wish I could say the same. And so I look particularly like sort of big, even though he's managed to put his arm around me. But I have a double chin in it. Oh my God. I was just appalled. Wrong angle, wrong this, wrong that. I look like I weigh 500. I look like I could undergo 3,000 bee stings. No problemo. Yes, Milton. Thank you. That movie, Little Big Man. Dustin Hoffman. Little Big Man. That's it. Thank you. Milton. Go-to guy. Ben, the movie, Little Big Man. It wasn't Dustin's character who was the gender contrarian. Oh, it wasn't? It was another person in his tribe who was born male but essentially lived as a female. Thank you for that, Ben. Thank you. Thank you. Ellen writes, Jennifer Finney Boylan, is a trans woman. So it was the op-ed writer who wrote the piece that all of those things I was reading to you were referring back to, is a trans woman. I did not know. Thank you for this, Ellen. She was for a time an opinion writer for the New York Times as well. She was a professor at, we think, Colby College and at Barnard. I have always read her columns with great interest and enjoyment, whether about trans or other issues. I have found her perspective very informative and enlightening. Thank you. Great. Thank you, guys. A wonderful audience I have. God bless you. Well, I don't know. In the 1 minute I have left, I just want to say this. Beto O'Rourke didn't, but let's hope this new guy, some congressman, Texas congressman out of Dallas area named Colin Allred, has said he's going to go up against, try to get that damn awful Ted Cruz out of the Senate. I don't think many people give him much of a shot just because it's Texas and no Democrat has won a statewide contest in Texas in like 30 years. Oh, God. Well, no time like the present. Anyway, this guy seems very, maybe you've seen him. He's impressive. He's a former civil rights lawyer. He played linebacker in the NFL. I don't know for what team. Grew up working class. And Smart as a whip, apparently. I mean, there's not a lot of NFL linebackers who go to law school and then get elected to Congress and then run for the Senate. And I think he's 39 or 40. He also appears to be black. Be called black. That'd be something. So I'm wishing him more luck than Beto's had. But Beto came within, I think, 2.5 points. And maybe, who knows what's going to be happening in 24. God, are any of us going to sleep that night? I mean, assuming we're still here. Wow. Well, I guess that's it. I done did it. And, figure. I'm just saying, listen to my voice now. Listen to my voice now. Is it under control? Am I hacking and coughing in your ear? No. Why? Because the show's over. Anyway, okay, that's it. I so love talking to you guys. I hate to say goodbye, but I am saying goodbye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Thursday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.